Welcome to Stoughton Media Access Cable. Today's community forum will feature Kathy Doyle from FireFlower Alternative Energy. My name is Steve Kelley, and I'll be your host today. So Kathy, welcome to the show.
Thank you very much, Steve.
Okay, so alternative energy, that's solar, that's electricity. What else is that?
Well, when I started the company, we did three things: biofuels, solar, and wind.
Ah, so that's a lot more than just what I said.
Just solar, right?
Right.
But there's a story behind that.
Okay. Well, share the story. Like, how did you get started into solar? And because solar is a big piece of your business, but go ahead, tell us about that.
Sure. Well, prior to starting this company, which was in 2008, I co-founded and co-managed a commercial brokerage company here in Massachusetts. It actually became the largest woman-owned commercial brokerage in the state.
Wow.
And I did that for about 17 years with a bunch of partners.
Yeah.
And in 2007, I decided I wanted to go in a different direction. And I started researching lots of different ideas. And my husband actually helped me with this renewable energy idea. So
we're going to give a shout out to Dave.
To Dave DeSantis.
All right.
Yeah.
All right.
Dave's the one.
Okay.
And he laughs because he told me, he's told me many times, I am a utility nightmare. I use a lot of utilities.
How so? Tell us
I leave
about
the
that.
lights on too much, or I used to, I should say. All those
Okay.
things that you're not supposed to do to conserve energy. And so in his quest to get our house in order and to get me to be more, aware, I actually did start doing a lot of research. And he prompted it, but I took the ball and ran with it. And I really became passionate then about renewable energy and what it meant and what it could mean. And so I developed it from there and started this company in 2008.
Well, I have to tell you that you really made me chuckle when you said that. I'm a utility nightmare. I have grandchildren at the house, and they are utility nightmares. It's like you have to follow them everywhere. Lights on, water's running. They leave the shower, but they forget to shut it off. It's like it's a utility nightmare.
And it's funny because sometimes, someone will ask me, well, how much electricity should an average house use? And first question I ask is, do you have a teenager? Because if you do, that's a whole different average.
That's another average altogether. So I would think that it's wonderful to have you as a woman entrepreneur. For those in the audience who want to look up to someone and say, like, how would I go about doing that? So before we get into the solar, which I'm sure there are people in the audience who are on the balance point or the tipping point as to whether or not they invest in solar. So we're going to get into that. But just dropping back to the whole idea of women in business, maybe you could just talk to us a little bit about like strong women in business, let's say.
Thank you. I could, although, when we started, my partner, also a woman, Kathy Thompson, and I started the commercial real estate brokerage company in 1990. That was the depth of the last real estate recession. So we had nowhere to go but up. And yet lots of people, when we started that business, told us, the two women who were starting it, women don't start commercial real estate businesses. They do retail, they do residential. Really, you should focus on other things, which only made us really much more determined to succeed. And succeed we did. We built a company that, in fact, is still around today in one form or another. And very proud of the growth and the development we did of the people who joined us. And it really was a journey, and it still is, to be an entrepreneur, woman or man, to be an entrepreneur in today's environment. It's a journey, it's a learning journey, and I've enjoyed lots of it, and I've pulled my hair out some, and it's like anything, It's what you make of it.
So how do you, like, pull us back to your parenting, maybe for a second, and say, well, I'm not sure that played into it, or that played into it really strongly. What do you think?
Well, I come from a family of 6 girls and 1 boy, and I'm the oldest girl. And my mom really was the matriarch who had a very strong hand and made a very, I would say, a very strong impression that women could do anything men can do. Mostly, she would say better. That's my mother. Yeah. And she really lived by that. And so she instilled that into us and pretty much said, you can do anything you set your mind to. And really, many of us have started our own companies. So I have a sister who's a criminal defense attorney, very well renowned. Yeah. And I have a sister who's has a court reporting business. Wow. And another sister who does court reporting, and another sister who has a real estate development company.
Wow.
Yeah.
So there definitely were the genes there.
Somewhere,
and also this magnification of awareness that, yes, you can.
Yes, you can. Yeah.
Yeah. So that's great. So that's nice to hear. Should we attribute a little bit of help or a push from your dad?
A little bit, yeah, I'd say. But yeah, it was really, my mom was the one who said, this is possible, anything's possible, now go do it.
Now go do it.
And then she kind of left us to our own. And I had a lot of help along the way from many, many people and many organizations. And one I'd like to give a shout out to is an organization called Entrepreneurs Organization. I joined in 1994, so I'm probably, in Boston, I'm probably the oldest member, longest running member of the Entrepreneurs Organization.
Longest tenured.
Right, longest tenured. And I've really learned a lot from my peers in that organization and from all the learning opportunities that I was given. So I think that's been a really vital part of my being able to build a good entrepreneurial company.
So like if we have a high school graduate or college ready to graduate, woman or man, and you would say, look online for Entrepreneurs
Organization. Yeah.
Entrepreneurs Organization.
It's an international organization, and it's very. I would say of all the organizations I've participated in, and I really do try to participate in as many as I can feasibly add value to. That one, among all of them, that one is probably the most valuable I've ever been a part of. Well, still very active today.
Okay, well that's a wonderful, you segued so beautifully to my next thought about being in business, and also for your alternative energy is this word value.
Yeah.
I believe that that's one of the missing ingredients to most businesses today, is they lose sight of creating value for the end user. So they create value for themselves. Seems to be even the contemporary SWOT analysis. When people do a SWOT, S-W-O-T, strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, threats, they're thinking of it, strengths, my weaknesses, the opportunities, the threats to me. But really that inverts the equation, because it's supposed to be, what is the value to the customer, the end user? So talk to me a little bit about how your view in creating value has brought you here to this place.
Well, so I started by, as I said, my husband got me involved or interested in renewable energy. And so before I could go out and sell that concept to anybody, I had to prove to myself that it all worked. So first thing we did was I figured out a way with him to make and sell biofuels. So we collect waste vegetable oil from restaurants, we treat it, and we put it into the diesel tanks of the cars that we have, both in his business and in mine. And it works. You don't have to, you actually, when you make biodiesel from waste vegetable oil properly, you do not have to convert your car or do anything different if you have a diesel engine. So I tried that, and it worked. I then went and researched what is the most efficient way to produce kilowatt hours per dollar invested, and frankly, that right now is probably wind. You can produce more kilowatt hours when you invest $1 in wind than you can when you invest $1 in solar. But wind is not available everywhere. The wind blows at different speeds, and the site issues and site conditions are too much of an issue for lots of people. So solar is more ubiquitous, and solar allows more people to participate. So then we installed solar in our home, and in fact, all the electricity that we use in our home is made by the sun. So we make all of the electricity that we use with our solar panels. And when I saw that and I said, this really does work, I went out, I was convinced myself, and I was able to go out and then sell that idea to other people, because I showed myself that it's valuable, and now I can show others that it's valuable. I do mostly commercial solar, so
right.
I can speak a little bit about residential because my friends are all asking me, why should I do it? And I tell them yes.
Yeah.
But mostly what I do is I work with the people that I worked with in the commercial real estate industry before, and I try to help them understand how they can benefit by incorporating solar into their portfolios.
Right, so what you've done is you've leveraged your past experience in commercial real estate to create and value for larger commercial buildings.
Yeah.
And you've, I think I read a little bit on your website that you worked a little bit on creating financing options as well.
Yes.
And also working with the state programs that are available. So let's go right into, tell us about how the state and federal programs integrate into the decision-making process for solar, whether it's for a home or a commercial person.
Okay. So there are 5 major programs that are driving the solar industry here in Massachusetts.
Okay, hold on, everybody's better get your notebook out now, 'cause this is good. We're going to have a test afterwards. You got 5 programs, all right?
Okay,
if you can get them all, you're going to be doing fabulous in your solar up-to-speed quiz. All right.
That's great. So 2 of them are federal programs. Federal programs apply to every state. So in every state, if you invest in solar, you get a 30% tax credit for every qualified dollar you invest.
Okay, and let's clarify for the audience, credit versus
deduction.
Deduction.
Right? It's a real credit. So if you owe, $40,000 in taxes at the end of the year, and you get a credit for $40,000, that makes your tax bill 0.
Wow.
So it's very valuable.
Okay.
And that program has been in place and is due to expire on December 31st of 2016, right now. Yep. So that 30% tax credit is going to change. It's likely going to go down, but we don't know yet. I'm assuming it is.
Right.
So I'm encouraging people who are thinking about doing solar to try and get their projects built before then, which is very feasible. You have plenty of time between now and December 31st of 2016. So that's one federal program. The second,
we have a name for that one?
That's the 30% tax credit.
The 30% federal program, okay.
Federal tax credit. The second federal program is a little more, it's oriented more toward the financial industry, and it allows you, it's accelerated depreciation. So basically, if you spend $40,000 on a solar project, and you normally that project has a life of, let's say, 25 years, our solar projects live 25 or 35 years,
right?
Then the government would want you to expense that project over that entire life of the project.
1/35th.
1/35th of the cost every year. So you spend it in year 1, but you can't take the expense, but for a small portion, once every
prior
year.
To this program.
Okay, now this program says you can expense all $40,000 in the first 5 years of your project's life.
Wow.
So that gives you the ability to offset taxes. So that's a deduction that allows you to offset taxes.
Yeah, a substantial one, yeah.
And a substantial one, and that's in addition to the 30% tax credit as well. So those are the 2 federal programs. The state programs layered on top of those are what makes Massachusetts really probably the 2nd or 3rd greenest state in the nation.
All right. Before you go on, though, so that we don't run right over the federal programs, how hard are they to enroll in? Is it a matter of just jump online? Is it a matter of hiring a consultant? Is it, if you're a homeowner, it's probably easier, but if you're a commercial property, then we need FireFlower alternative energy?
Well, You don't need me in every instance, but I would say that most projects that are trying to leverage both of those programs could benefit from a consultant or somebody who's knowledgeable about the industry to structure the transaction so that you get everything that's possible.
Right.
So that's where I might fit in. But it's not necessary, and if someone owned a commercial building and they wanted to install solar and they wanted to take advantage of these programs, it would be very easy for them to do. They simply have to catalog what their expenses are, like you do with other tax itemizations, and they'd be able to demonstrate with all of their paperwork what they spent, and 30% of that is your tax credit. The depreciation your accountant will help you with. So.
Okay. All right. So now let's move on to the state programs that you, and I want to thank you because clearly you're an expert, and I'm sure the audience can sense that by the confidence in sort of, all the answers. So this is great. So just thanks, and let's keep rolling with this on the state work.
Yeah, so the state programs are, there are three. One is the Renewable Portfolio Standard, and that was created by the Green Communities Act. When it was implemented in 2010, the state said to all the investor-owned public utilities here, like NSTAR and NGrid, if you guys would like to sell power in our state, which of course they do, if you sell this much power now, this much of it has to be renewable in 2010, and this much in 2011, and this much in 2012, because we have a target for renewable energy now, Renewable Portfolio Standard.
And that this much is, can you just give us a quick percentage?
So we started at about 6%, and the target is 15% by 2020.
So it might be 6, 7, 8,
Yeah, we're 12. On target to do just that.
Okay.
I think we'll make that.
Okay.
And we in the industry are encouraging that that's even maybe too modest of a goal, and many states around us now have set higher targets, and they're looking to have much more of their energy to come from renewable energy because it's good for the environment. It's good in many ways. We'll go over some later.
When we can jump, we'll jump. All right, so when we're done going over the programs, we're going to talk about why it's so good. All right.
So Massachusetts implemented these renewable portfolio standards, and what that did was it created a demand for renewable energy. So now the utilities have to sell a certain part of their portfolio as renewable energy. So there's a demand there. So that's good. The second program is called this Solar Renewable Energy Certificate Program, SREC. You'll hear that. That's the acronym, SREC.
And
so
that's
SRECs.
that's sort of really the lingo for very common lingo. So write that down on your notes. SREC.
SRECs are good. SRECs are valuable, and basically they allow you to monetize the environmental attribute you create by creating clean renewable power. So when you create invest in clean renewable power, you create kilowatt hours. Those have value, monetary value. In addition to which, the state has said, because you're a good guy and you're creating this clean renewable power instead of the fossil fuel generated pollution producing power, we're going to give you something for that. We're going to recognize it. And the way it's recognized is by this program called Solar Renewable Energy Certificates. And what they are is, once you qualify for the program, which isn't very difficult at all, you are able to, for 40 quarters, for 10 years, 40 quarters, you are able to receive a payment, a monetization, let's say, of your energy attributes. And there's a floor to that, and there's a ceiling to that payment, or that value, I should say.
Right.
It's a little more complicated than I'm saying, but for the general public, basically what it means is, if you create renewable energy, you get somewhere between 20 and 26 cents a kilowatt hour, in addition to your power value, and you're able to...
So it's a premium paid to you for doing the right thing.
In a way, yeah. It's not quite paid to it's on. You sell the credits on an exchange. So
you get like a bank account.
You get something like that.
And they put this money that relates to your kilowatt hours produced into your little account. It's not quite cash at this point.
Correct.
But it's blocks of certificates.
Valuable certificates.
Valuable
and then you
certificates.
can either sell them on the market, on the open market, or there are 3 different things you can do. You can hold on to them and sell them at the auction once a year in August
Yep.
in our state. You can sell them on the spot market, which is whatever the current buyers and sellers are willing to pay.
Yep.
And then you could also have someone pay you a certain price for a contracted number of years. So I have a client who just looked at 3 years selling 3 years worth of their soon-to-be created SRECs
Yes.
at a price certain of, I guess I shouldn't say, but somewhere in the mid 20 cents a kilowatt hour. So it's valuable, and that's what helps make these projects financeable as well. So that there are banks in the state because of these because of this solar renewable energy certificate program, they get comfortable with that, and they're willing to finance solar projects on the basis of the value of the SRECs and the power together.
Right, and let me interrupt you and just throw in something, a little credibility for you. Your company has, together with a client, produced the largest solar field on a building or in real estate in Boston, Massachusetts, right? In all of Boston.
Yeah.
And it's 974,000 kilowatts?
974 kilowatts, or 974,000 watts.
Yes, watts.
Or 0.974 megawatts, right?
So almost a megawatt building per year, is that how it goes?
Well, the capacity, so I'm glad you asked it that way.
Okay.
So there are 2 things that you think about when you talk about solar. One is the capacity of the system that you're installing. So my 974 kilowatt system, we put on the roof of a building in Hyde Park. So and you're right, it is the largest roof-mounted solar development in the whole city of Boston.
Is it possible in the state as well? Or?
No, not on a roof-mounted project. I think there are bigger projects on the roof on a roof elsewhere, because Boston doesn't have lots of really big buildings,
roofs,
and other cities and towns do. But
Okay.
so that capacity of 974 kilowatts is what the system size is. Now, how many kilowatt hours will be produced from that capacity of a system is a function of how many sunny days and cloudy days and snowy days we have. So if I took that 974 kilowatt system and I put it in Arizona, it would produce 40% more power in Arizona than it would produce here. But when we give our clients an estimate of production, solar production, we include all the sunny days and all the snowy days and all the rainy days that are anticipated based on 20 years of weather.
Right.
And we tell them...
Excluding this February.
Excluding this February.
Okay.
Although, on an average, it'll all work itself out, I think.
Okay.
But, yes.
Yeah.
So anyhow, because our power costs are so high here in New England, and because people are surprised to learn, we still do get many sunny days, more than enough to make developing solar here valuable.
Right, and to offset those negatives.
To offset the negatives, thank you.
Yeah.
So, so that 974 kilowatt system will produce somewhere around 1.1 million kilowatt hours per year, and that's what has value.
22 cents. That's $220,000.
Yes.
That's not 22,000.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
It's more like 220,000.
Yes.
That's a lot of money.
It is, and it is. Some of my commercial landlords have projects that are about that size, and they create an average revenue that's average over, on a monthly basis of about $40,000 between the SREC income and the power.
So
value.
you not only get the $220,000 on that job, but also the SREC equivalent.
Correct.
So you're almost doubling your money.
Correct.
That's an interestingly, wonderfully sounding investment.
It is.
Yeah.
And the reason more people don't do it, I think, isn't because it doesn't make a lot of financial sense. It's because there are a few more moving parts to a solar development than there are to, let's say, buying a new piece of equipment or investing in a building. But the programs are so meaningful and valuable at this point in time that if I can help people get up the learning curve and understand where things really are, and that they shouldn't be afraid to do a solar project, that it really will produce the value that we're talking about. It's very powerful for them.
Okay, so review with me if you would. So we had 2 state programs, right? One was a credit and one was accelerated depreciation.
Federal programs were a credit and accelerated depreciation,
okay.
yes.
And then we have a portfolio program that helps that encourages the utilities to create a market. Mm-hmm. And then you have the SREC program.
Yeah.
Right?
And last, but not least by any measure, is net metering. So net metering.
What is that? What is net metering?
It's a very hot topic in our little world right now.
Okay.
And net metering is if I have a site that produces more power than I need, what can I do with that power? And net metering allows you to apply the credits that you earn from producing power in location A to a different location, to a different meter, let's say. And that's very valuable. Landlords in particular like to know that if there's no tenant in this building, I'm going to be producing kilowatt hours. What do I do with those kilowatt hours? How do I monetize them? Right. So this is a way that people can produce power in one location and apply the credits that they earn from that power to a different location.
And is that in system? Like, would it have to be, like if I had a place in southern Mass and a place in western Mass, it has to be like that, or?
Yes, it has to be in the same, what they call load zone.
In the same
and I have a little map I can show you of that, but yes. Okay. So you can't take power that's produced in a location that's serviced by N-Star and export that power to an N-grid location.
Not directly, but indirectly by selling the SRECs.
Not exactly, but indirectly by monetizing the power, monetizing the value of the power.
And if you ended up with too much power, what happens then with this? Let's say you had a credit of 50,000 kilowatts. And you're building credits and you can't do anything with it. Are you able to sell it back to the utility? I mean,
you can sell it to someone who needs to pay their electricity bill. So everybody in the state has an electricity bill, and if they're in the same load zone as you are, you can say, I have this, $40,000 credit. Would you like to buy it from me? And you can sell it. And you might discount it to make it agreeable to them. Yes.
So you'd sell it for $37,000, let's say.
And net metering also allows people who want to do a solar development or participate in buying solar or using solar, who don't have a site that makes sense for solar, to participate in these programs as well. So I have a number of clients who have facilities that don't, for one reason or another, they're not right for solar. They either are facing in the wrong direction, or they're shaded by other buildings or shaded by trees, and so they can't put a solar array on their existing facility, but they're willing to buy and want to buy clean renewable power. Net metering helps me build a project one place and sell the power, or the credits or the power to them in a different place.
Wow, it's really quite an intricate, or maybe not complex, but certainly intricate maneuvering.
It's true, and it's maybe a little too complex for most people, which is what makes people afraid to get involved.
But that's where you come in.
Yeah, that's where I come in. What I try to do is really quell their fears somewhat and show them the path that it's not without a few worries, but it is doable, and it is something, especially in these next few years with the federal credits, that has some real value. I mean, many of my commercial clients are looking at increasing the returns of their entire building portfolio by adding a solar project right now. So that can be very valuable, and it's adding jobs to our economy. It's adding, it's taking out the fossil fuel pollution.
So now we're going to go into why is solar so good? You're really easy to interview, by the way. You get to move right into the next one. So why is solar so good?
Okay, so solar is good for hundreds of reasons, if you ask me. But really, what I like to say about solar, I mentioned that I tried it on myself first, okay? So I can tell everybody with incredible confidence that, look, we installed this solar array on our home. We have a volt now, so the volt gets charged by renewable energy
as well.
So our total system size with the new addition for the volt is 10 kilowatts. And our 10 kilowatt system produces all the power that we, my husband, myself, and our no longer a teenager, just turned 20-year-old son, use all year long.
With girlfriend and friends. Yeah.
Exactly. So having done that, I'll tell you three things. One, there are no moving parts. There's no maintenance, there's no nothing. You install the solar array and it works. When the sun's shining, I'm making power, and I'm creating clean, renewable energy that has value. So that's great. The second is, being able to participate in this new renewable energy economy, and really lead by example, be a participant that gets something out of it, but make sure that I go around and evangelize to the community about why it's so good.
Yes.
That's helpful. That's a wonderful thing to be able to do. And leading by example has been something I've done a lot in my life.
Right.
So that's the second reason why I think solar is, I can say without a doubt from my own experience, solar is great. And then the third really is, from a financial perspective, I am very confident that over time, the cost of my solar, the investment, I should say, that I've made in just in my residential solar, and this is also true on my commercial projects, there's going to be a much bigger delta over time between what I'm valuing my power at and what it's costing to buy power on
in the future.
The grid, in the future. So I think that over the long term, everyone who invests in solar now is going to be really happy about the price that they're going to be paying for electricity over time. It's going to be controlled, it's going to be something that they can predict, controlled, predictable. That's all good for business and personal expenses, right?
Right. No. So, and it's funny because you see all these new things coming out on the web and different ways that people are scrambling to find new ways money, right? And the whole idea of trends and things like that. And this seems more of a down to earth. There's actually a physical installation.
Yeah.
There are meters that work and read it. I mean, you can handle it, you can touch it. It's real,
see, feel, touch,
and it's going to give back a very useful commodity.
Totally agree. Yeah.
Yeah. So let's switch over a little bit to the residential side, because I'm thinking that a lot of our audience, and although in spite of there being a number of people that may have commercial interests as well, but a lot of our audience might be in a small cape or something like that. One of the things that you mentioned earlier was that the home might not be situated in the right direction. So tell us a little bit about how important that is, and also a little bit about aesthetics of panels, because I'm thinking that some people are like, I can't see all these ugly things changing the way I look at my house.
Yeah. So
two things, direction and aesthetics.
Okay, so I'll start with aesthetics because my husband's a little bit of, as you know, Dave's a little bit of a fanatic about that too.
Yeah.
And when we first started talking about solar, everyone wanted to put the solar facing away from the neighbors and the street and all that.
Yeah.
And it's totally turned around. Now people want solar out front to show their neighbors, I'm a good guy, look at me, I'm producing clean renewable power here at home. So it's done almost a 360. So there's less, I see far less today of an objection to what a solar panel looks like and where it is on the house. That being said, there are plenty of people who say, I built my house to look a certain way, and I don't want to add to it and make it look any different. And solar panels will do that, but I think lots of people, there have been a lot of new developments in how to put them on, how to adhere them to your home, and how to set the modules at a certain tilt angle, and all those things come into effect to help people who are concerned about aesthetics manage them to a point where, they're not invisible, okay? So they're there. But I feel, and a lot of other people now are feeling like they make a good statement about you and what you're doing, and some people like to say that as clearly as they can. So the aesthetics, I think, have become less of an issue for more of the people that I'm seeing.
Okay.
And then on the orientation and what is your site? Well, how does your site set itself up for solar? I have a number of, you can do lots of things. You can even look at this on Google Earth and you can figure out, is my site shaded and how much of the day is my site shaded? So
do you do that when you consult with someone? You'll actually look at their site, look at its orientation?
I work with some
Google
contractors.
Earth?
Some of my contractors will help me with that. And yes, we look at Google Earth, and then we do a site visit, and we look at what else is, what's on the roof. Residential installations don't really have to worry too much about that. But for example, we have a chimney on our roof, and so for every 1 foot of height in your roof, something not penetrating. What am I saying? An elevation from your roof. You have to be a shadow maker. It makes 3 feet of shadow. Okay, so 1 foot of elevation makes 3 feet of shadow. So if you have a chimney, you really kind of have to make sure your panels are.
If it's 6 feet tall, you got to be 18 feet away.
Yeah, if you're, you
get full use.
To get full use, and there are ways around that. Which what our solar installer helped us do was to wire the panels in a certain way. So we had one string that had a little bit less efficiency, but it didn't affect the whole entire array. So we did it that way because my husband liked the symmetry of putting the panels across the whole roof.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
So people will do that. They'll put panels across, and some of them will be a little less efficient, but some of them will be much more efficient. And in the end, you just want to have you want to get to a certain achievable number of efficiency.
So size-wise, if I've got a roof that's, let's say, 30 by 33, right, and on each side, and then I've got another 1,000 feet. So you've got 3,000 feet of roof.
Yeah. Oh wow. Yeah. That can accommodate a 3,000 foot roof with setbacks and all. Will probably accommodate a 12 to 15 kilowatt system.
And you have 10 for your house.
Yeah.
So.
And I have that over
if a person has an average bill, you might not know this answer, but so say a person has a bill of $150 roughly, and I think that might be some middling number. I don't know what people have for electrical bills, but we could probably find that out by, calling up public information at one of these utilities and asking them what's the average bill. But if a person has a $150 bill, would that relate to, on a monthly basis, a certain number of kilowatt hours?
Yes, and I thought you were going to ask me, so how much of the bill would solar offset? And my first answer would be, it depends on how many teenagers you have. So
okay. That's great.
Candidly, you can't. It's very difficult for the average household to offset 100% of their bill with what they can fit on their roof.
How did you do it then?
You have to be pretty conservation-minded, and you have to have. So
you're no longer the utility wrecker?
I'm not the utility nightmare anymore. I'm much better.
Okay.
And we really do try to minimize our use to the extent possible. I mean, we don't want to sit in a dark house with no lights on, of course.
We use candles.
But we're really diligent about, we make sure we have the strips so that you can switch off all your electric mobile devices, et cetera.
Oh.
When you can. So we do all of that.
So I don't unplug my computers. I have probably 3 computers in the house.
Yeah, nobody does. Who knows?
Okay. But so I'm wondering if that means.
But you know what I do is I have a strip that lets me shut the whole system down with one flick of, a flick of one switch.
Yeah.
I shut everything down and then I turn it back up the next day.
So that's.
So I keep. I don't leave my items, anything, as you may or may not know, anything that has an on and off switch draws what they call phantom electricity. So about 15% of an average person's an average family's bill is this phantom electricity, which means
wow, that's a little known fact, I'm
yeah.
sure.
So it might be a little less now. I'm not 100% sure, but somewhere between 10 and 15%
So say
of
it's 10%.
what you pay for is electricity that is being used to keep that standby going.
Like on
So
your TV, for
your
instance?
TV, everything that has
all
an
the
on and off
computers
switch.
that we
Right.
keep on.
Think about all the things in your house that have that.
Oh,
So if you put a few of
heating
those
systems.
switches on, yeah, heating systems you probably don't want to be.
Right, but I'm just
dealing
saying
with,
there's
but
phantom
yes,
usage.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Anything that has an on or on off switch, if you can go around the house and figure out which ones of these things can I plug into a strip that allows me to shut it off.
Click them all quickly, yeah.
I do that. We do a lot of that stuff in our house.
Nice.
So there are different things over the years. You get to a place where it's like, hey, we probably can still improve, but very marginally. I don't know if you get those bills that show you compared to your neighbor how you're doing, right?
Yeah.
I think that's a great idea.
Let's move on. Let's move on.
Well, we're in a good place because we really don't use any electricity anymore.
So you're the ones that make me look bad.
Yep.
Look
All
at those
your neighbors
people
with the
there.
solar
Yeah.
are the ones doing really well.
They're the
right?
ones knocking it down, which is, I think, a great idea. I'm just kidding about wanting to knock those people. No. No, I think that's great. So we've talked a little bit about the size of the units. What about the difficulty to get an installer? Is that I'm seeing trucks and vans all over the place.
I don't see any difficulty there. In fact, I would say in the last year, I have reviewed for at least 9 or 10 of my friends several solar proposals from each of them.
Yeah.
Several from each individual.
Yeah.
There are plenty of people out there who can do the install, and there are really good companies out there who are operating in Massachusetts right now. So people have good choices. Part of the reason all those companies are out there doing this and giving great alternatives, by the way, they'll give you an alternative to lease or to own or to, put some money down now and buy the system later. Those programs are available as a result of all these incentives that I talked about. Once those incentives change, the ability to leverage all those good programs is going to go down, and that's going to translate into higher costs for the residential power purchase agreement. Power purchase agreement is that agreement to buy power at a certain price over a certain amount of time.
Wow. So if you were to give a homeowner your best thoughts, as opposed to advice.
Okay.
So people always say advice is only worth what you pay for.
Correct, right.
But to give your best thoughts, what would you say to the average homeowner about solar, wind, and biodiesel right now? What should they do?
So I support all 3 of those alternative energies, and there are others as well, but those are the ones I know about, so I'll talk mostly about those. Biofuels work. People have looked at me like I was completely crazy. I drive a car that, it's fueled by waste
go to
vegetable
a Chinese
oil.
restaurant
Yes.
and pick up fuel. I didn't get that.
Yes, it's easy to do. It doesn't change your gas mileage at all. It's a little messy sometimes, but it's a great way to reuse. You're reusing
physically
waste
pouring
oil.
it into your own tank, right?
Right.
So you have these funnels at your house?
Sort of, yeah. We won't get into that. But
Oh,
it's a little messy.
it's a little messy.
But I do it. So waste oil, that's for the people who are really willing to go out there, let's say.
Okay.
But my car runs fine, and I've been running it for 8 years that way. And everybody's pretty amazed, thinking, I thought that was so far away. I didn't think you could do that yet. It's not far away. It's very doable. It's just a matter of how much energy do you want to spend dealing with that.
Oh, so we haven't even talked about how you actually did that, which is in another segment, I guess. So
yeah, we'll do that another time. So biofuels, I would say that's for somebody who's really committed and wants to do, and I'm happy to share my experience. Then wind, I think, is a great alternative energy. Our challenge here in Massachusetts for wind is land-based wind makes people, yeah, there are a lot of strong reactions, shall we say, to
because of
it's either aesthetics or concern about noise or concern. I am not concerned. I've done a lot of research, and I really feel strongly that if somebody said, I want to put a wind turbine here, as long as, you know, I wouldn't say put it in someone's residential backyard, but there are plenty of good places, land-based, that a wind turbine could be placed. It would produce the power that would be comparable or better than what we're seeing from solar, and it would cost a little bit less. But not everybody has that, because only of the 351 cities and towns in Massachusetts, only about 100 towns even have enough wind to make a turbine work. But of those towns, then how many are going to allow the turbines, and how many are too close to residences and all that? So we have those issues going on.
So there's sort of a
there's a bias.
There's a bias or a backlash.
Unfortunately, because it's a good alternative energy source, but people get really nervous about it. And I think also my experience has been that people see a wind turbine, you know, turning, and they say, oh gosh, it's turning really fast. If there's a bigger one, it's going to turn faster, and it's going to be noisier. And the exact opposite is true. The larger wind turbines turn more slowly, they cause less flicker, they are less noisy than the smaller ones for lots of reasons. So people's initial reaction is the exact opposite of what reality is in wind, but we can't, it's hard to get past that. And so here in Massachusetts, solar is more easily developed, it's more readily, the sites are more readily available. And if you're ever going to do solar, in the next couple of years is probably the time you want to get it done, because the incentives are still here, they're valuable, there are people who are willing, ready, and able to do it, and you're probably going to do better now than you will a few years from now, overall economically.
All right, well, we're going to roll credits right now, and when I come back, I want to maybe ask you if there's a few things that you really wished you'd said, or we want to entertain with as we move forward. So Roy, in the background there, Roy and Gina. So I also want to thank our volunteers. Leo McGowan's been on the cameras. Gina Coe is out doing the producing with Roy Cohen. So we want to thank them, and we'll see if we can get up on the chart. And I think Gary LaPierre is going to get us going with some of the credits.
Hi, it's Gary LaPierre, and the crew wants to thank Maxie's Delicatessen. That's at 117 Sharon Street in Stoughton. They're 781-341-1662. American Cancer Society, yes, they're looking for volunteers. Drive cancer patients to and from their treatments. 1-800-ACS-6662, or just go to www.cancer.org. Ilsa Mark's Food Pantry in St. Anthony's Free Market, 2 Park Avenue in Stoughton. For more information, call Christine Gallagher. That's at 781-341-0611 or 781-341-0549. Meals on Wheels. Just ask for Jessica. You'll find her at 781-344-8882, extension 2. Stoughton Penny Saver. Our business is advertising your business, they tell us. 27 Rose Glen Street, Stoughton, 781-344-4833. Community Forum showtimes in Stoughton. It's Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday at 6 p.m., Monday at 8 p.m., Tuesday at 5 p.m. It's on Comcast Channel 9 and Verizon Channel 28. All comments and suggestions welcome. Contact us at communityforum1@yahoo.com. Community Forum showtimes in Easton. Mondays at 9 p.m., Tuesday at 8 a.m., Wednesdays 3 p.m., Saturday 10 a.m. And that too, Comcast Channel 9, Verizon Channel 22. Samaritans, they're at 41 West Street on the 4th floor in Boston, 02111. Their phone number is 617-536-2460. 24-hour helplines for Samaritans, and the number is 877-870-HOPE. That's 877-870-4673. Samaritans, you can find them at 800-252-TEEN. That's 252-8336. Or find them online at SamaritansHope.org.
And we're back here in studio, and we want to remind our viewers that Stoughton's annual election, Tuesday, April 7th of 2015, of course, polls are open starting at 7 a.m. and running all the way to 8 p.m. So don't miss this opportunity to vote, right? You also can watch the live election results with Jeff Pickett. Our friend Jeff will be there, and that starts at 8:30 p.m. on Comcast Channel 9, Verizon Channel 28. And Leo McGowan's tip of the week. We love this guy. He's always trying to keep us safe with a former firefighter. And he has some cell phone awareness that we want you to think about. So there is a happening, I guess that you'd say. A poor woman had her purse stolen, and it had her cell phone, credit cards, and she thought it was like not a good thing for sure. But about 20 minutes later, she got a call from her husband She called her husband, and he informed her that he got a text asking for their bank PIN number. And he gave it in a text to who he thought was his wife. Well, they rushed to the bank, and unfortunately they found out that their funds were withdrawn. They presumed that the criminals got the idea of who to call by looking through the contacts and seeing honey, hubby, sweetheart, dad, whatever, and then immediately texted that person. So one of the things that we have with Leo's tip of the week is that you not identify in your contact list the relationships of the people that you have. So that's something to think about, and also just let's not try to lose that person in the first place. Okay, and as we go on, we're going to return here with Kathy and Kathy DeSantis / Doyle, representing her own company, FireFlower Alternative Energy. She's done a great job explaining the various alternatives to what we've commonly accepted as utilities providing for us, and finding ways that we can provide natural ways that are better for the environment and for our community. Her office is at 107 Union Wharf. She specializes in commercial, but she can also give you a little direction if you wanted to on some of the solar options you might take. She's in Boston, Mass. 02109. Her phone number is 617-529-8805. And her website is www.fireflower-ae.com. And her email is kdoyle@fireflower-ae.com. So before we return to Kathy, I did want to put a plug in for, and here we are right here, for Maxie's got a wonderful thing that they're doing for the Sumner Redstone Burn Center at Mass General Hospital. For a $20 donation, you get this magnificent cup. It has beautiful coloring. It has a nice look with Maxie's, and every penny of every dollar of the $20 that you'll spend to support Maxie's effort on behalf of the Redstone Burn Center goes to that wonderful charity, and they will use that. And if we get the screen back, I'll say it's something to do with the education funds, to the equipment, everything they can do for anyone who's had a problem. So I think it's 100% of the funds will go to the purchase of equipment, services, and education for patients and families who have this as an affliction in their lives, and it's a great thing. So please consider donating $20 to Maxie's. Maxie's Delicatessen. So that's good. So now we're back with Kathy, all right? And Kathy, I ended saying something about how good solar is for the community. Tell me a little bit about things in the community that you had hoped to share.
So there is actually a program called Community Solar, and I'm happy to speak with anybody who wants to know more about it. Essentially, it allows people who don't have a site, a residential or a commercial site, that allows them to do solar to participate by being involved in owning a piece of community solar.
Well, this is awesome.
Yeah,
So for those of us that are in an apartment,
yep,
right?
Yep.
And you say, but I think solar's the way to go, and I would like to do something. So, tenants, for instance.
Yep, they
so
can
how do they do it?
There's a way to structure in a project, I should say, that would allow those tenants to have a small piece of that entire project, and they would get the benefits of lower electricity. By the way, one of the things you said was lower, I don't know if you said lower costs, but I want to reiterate to people that these programs do result in individuals and businesses being able to control and lower their energy costs over time with clean, renewable power. So that's one thing I really want to get out there. You can participate in many different ways.
Right.
Community solar is one. You can own a project. You can have someone else own it and sell you the power. You can lease a project. Lots and lots of different ways. And I'm happy to elaborate for anybody who needs more information. And I would also like to reiterate that the cities and towns in Massachusetts have really benefited by these programs as well. And there are, I can't even remember how many, but more than a majority of the towns in our state have either solar that they own, or they're participating in these solar programs to control and reduce their energy costs.
So we're at Stoughton Media Access Cable, and the town of Stoughton, I don't know what they have for solar, but they could contact you if they wanted, and you could steer them through your consulting how to perhaps create something on a high school or on a school grounds.
Yep.
You do ground as well?
Yes, I do. And for my town, for the town of Milton, we're actually talking about a ground-mounted solar project that would benefit the town's library, the town's police department, and another building in the town.
Which ultimately benefits the taxpayer, which I just
Correct.
love when you can create the value for the taxpayer.
yeah.
Because it's the whole purpose, right, of the town is to create value for the taxpayers that are in it.
Yep.
So that's great. Stepping back though to the community piece, if someone's a tenant, they're not going to have typically, I mean, we're talking about not having, $100 million to invest or something. How would they? Is it viable that they could
Yes.
maybe do $250 of investing, or how is it structured?
They would probably want to purchase the power that's created from a community solar project
okay.
on a contract over time, and that would help them participate by buying clean, renewable power.
So grouping them in
Yeah.
a sense.
Yeah.
Ah,
Yeah.
so that's great. Yeah. So as we close off the interview, what have we missed? What would you like to?
I think that my mantra is that this is good. Developing solar and clean renewable power is good for the environment, and it's also good for businesses. Businesses like Staples, for example, they're a large employer here in Massachusetts. They are a leader in the development of an incorporation of solar into their projects, because they realize that being able to produce clean renewable power for their own use is worthwhile to them, to their customers, and to their pocketbooks. So.
Well, that's a great way to close off, being valuable to customers alike, as well as the businesses that you serve. So I want to thank Kathy Doyle from FireFlower Alternative Energy. Right?
Pleasure,
Thanks
Steve.
for coming on, for sharing with the audience your vast knowledge, and for making it a little closer within reach for each person that wants to say, making use of the sunlight, the renewable energy is a great thing to do. So on behalf of SMAC, thanks for coming on board.
It is my pleasure.
Right? And thank you for watching. We appreciate it, and hope to see you next time.